Hello, I am Jackie, your tour guide. Before the Spanish first occupied the Philippines, the country was already rich with local cultural history, ranging from trading interaction with the Chinese, Japanese to engaging with Islamic leaders from the Middle East and eventually spreading Islam. When we say pre-Hispanic or pre-Spanish, it pertains to a period in a particular nation history that was not yet colonized by Spain. Ancient Filipinos were living in barangays and ruled by various chieftains that were similar in many ways. Their religion, houses, mode of dressing, in short, they were refined and civilized. They have customs and tradition comparable to other parts of the globe. They have their own system of writing, alphabet, and other.
And Roberto. So let's talk about what happened in Spanish period. So come on, let's go back to this period. What happened in this period? Spanish rule brought most of what is now the Philippines into a single unified administration from 1565 to 1821. The Philippines was discovered as part of the New Mexico-based Viceroyalty of New Spain, later administrated following the Mexican War of Independence. What is the main contribution of Spanish era to the Philippines? The greatest contribution is the development of the country was the one it least wanted, the unification of the people under its control. The Filipinos were united first of all through a common religion. Spanish colonization led to the decline of pre-existing and often prosperous economic political centers in the Philippines.
Hello everyone, I am Yuli Antarion, your tour guide for the day. Are you curious about what happened during the period of enlightenment in the Philippines? After 300 years of passivity under Spanish rule, the Filipino spirit reawakened when the three priests Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora were guillotined without sufficient evidence of guilt. This occurred on the 17th of February. This was buttressed with the spirit of liberalism when the Philippines opened its door to world trade and with the coming of a liberal leader in the person of Governor Carlos Maria de la Torre. The Spaniards were unable to suppress the tide of rebellion among the Filipinos. The once religious spirit transformed itself into one of nationalism, and the Filipinos demanded changes in the church government. There were three principal leaders of the propaganda movement. They were Jose P. Rizal, Marcelo H. Del Pilar, and Graciano Lopez Haina. Dr. Jose Rizal died by musketry in the hands of the Spaniards on December 30, 1896, on charges of sedition and rebellion against the Spaniards. His book Noli Me Tangere was the novel that gave spirit to the propaganda movement and paved the way to the revolution against Spain. In this book, he courageously exposed the evils in the Spanish-run government in the Philippines. Also, the El Filibusterismo. This is a sequel to the Noli Me Tangere. While the Noli Me Tangere exposed the evils in society, the El Filibusterismo exposed those in the government and in the church. Also, Marcelo H. Del Pilar established the Diaryong Tagalog in 1883, where he exposed the evils of the Spanish government in the Philippines, and in order to avoid the false accusation hurled at him by the priest. To avoid banishment, he was forced to travel to Spain in 1888. He was assisted by Serrano Lactau in publishing a different catechism and passion book wherein they made fun of the priest, and it's called the Dasalan at Tocsohan. Upon his arrival in Spain, he replaced Graciano Lopez Haina as editor of La Solidaridad, a paper which became the vehicle through which reforms in the government could be worked out. Graciano Lopez Haina, a most notable hero and genius, he won the admiration of the Spaniards and Europeans. From Valencia, he moved to Barcelona where he established the first magazine, La Solidaridad. This later became the official voice of the Association Hispana de Filipinas, a Filipino-Spanish association composed of Filipinos and Spaniards who work for reforms in the Philippines. Because of this, Haina successfully showed the Spaniards and the people of the world how a newspaperman can introduce changes in law and reforms towards a better life and progress.
The Filipino revolutionists once against the Spaniard who colonized us for more than 300 years. Our flag was hosted on June 12, 1898 as a symbol of our independence. General Emilio Aguinaldo was elected as the first president of the Philippines Republic, which while short-lived Americans colonized the country. And in 1901, President Emilio Aguinaldo surrendered in the Americans. During American period, many Filipinos started writing again. The nationalism of the people remained undaunted. Filipino writers went all forms of literature like news, report, plays, essay, and novels. Their writings clearly depicted about love for the country and longest for independence. Characteristic of literature during this period, Spanish, Tagalog, and English were medium used in literature. The writers in Tagalog continued their lamentation of the condemnation of the country and their attempts to rouse love for one's native tongue. The writer in English imitated the themes and method of Americans.
Konnichiwa, tsagay do no jirin kajeru desu. Juday ne naniga o potano ka shirutai disu ka? Sa wa anata ni hanashi o shimazu. The striking growth of the Philippines literature in the English language and the development of the Philippines literature in general was interrupted during the Japanese period. The weekly Liwayway magazine was put under strict surveillance and was managed by a Japanese named Ishiwara. And during the Japanese period, there are three different type of poems appeared, and these are haiku, tanaga, and karaniwang anyo. Haiku and tanaga are still widely used in the Philippines, particularly for educational purposes. The Japanese occupation broadened the short story genre. They are all produced short stories. During the Japanese period, Japanese made us a great contribution to the Philippines literature because they taught us to embrace and use our language, which is Filipino. Even though they intend to distance our sympathy from the America because they hate it. Despite being called one of the darkest days in the history, literature, tradition of the Philippines, the Japanese period still has a few remaining bright spot in the dark and the gloomy days.
Good day. I'm your tour guide, Henry Brito. So do you want to know what happened in the Rebirth of Freedom? Come on, let's go back to this period. What this period, Filipinos learned to express themselves more confidently but post-war problems beyond language and print like economic stability. Philippines literature in Tagalog was revived during this period. Most themes in the writing dealt with Japanese brutalities, of the poverty of life under the Japanese government, and the brave guerrilla exploits. And during this period, the Americans returned in 1945. On July 4, 1946, the Philippines regained its freedom, and the Filipino flag waved joyously alone.
Baka, wag matakot. Hi, I'm your tour guide, Reggie May. So let's go back to the period of activism. Did you know what happened during activism? According to Pasiano Pinede, the youth of activism in 1970 to 1972 was due to domestic and worldwide causes. The youth became completely rebellious during this period, and people seek to influence political outcomes by mobilizing citizens who are not political insider to the actions. Activism played as a major role in ending slavery. They protect workers from exploitation, promoting equality, and shouting for freedom.
At long last, you're here. Of a third journey. Anyway, I'm Clint Miliete, and I'll be your tour guide for period of the New Society, 1972 to 1980. At this tour, we will focus more at the literature of this period. First, a brief historical background about this period. The period of the New Society started on September 21, 1971. The Carlos Palanca Awards continued to give annual awards. The Don Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature, popularly known as the Palanca Awards, are a set of literary awards for Philippine writers, usually referred to as the Pulitzer Prize of the Philippines. It is the country's highest literary honor in terms of prestige. Palanca Awards was established in 1950. The purpose is to inspire and recognize Philippine writers including poets, playwrights, and screenwriters. Even to this day, Palanca Awards still exist. Did you know that almost all themes in most writings dealt with the development or progress of the country, like Green Revolution, family planning, proper nutrition, environment, drug addiction, and pollution. The New Society tried to stop pornography or those writings giving bad influences on the morals of the people. While the military government established a new office called the Ministry of Public Affairs. The purpose is to supervise the newspapers, books, and other publications. The government took part in reviving old plays like Kenakulo, Zarzuela, and the Embayoka of the Muslims. In order to have a place for this place, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, the Folk Arts Theater, and the Old Metropolitan Theater were rebuilt. Filipino poetry during the period of the New Society. These are examples of slogans of the New Society. Sa ikaunlad ng bayan, disiplina ang kailangan. In English, discipline is needed to develop the nation. Second, tayo'y kumain ng gulay upang humaba ang buhay. In English, let's eat vegetables to lengthen our lives. And lastly, ang pagsunod sa magulang, tanda ng anak ng magalang. In English, obedience to parents is a mark of a respectful child. Those who wrote poetry during this period, known as Ponciano Pineda, Ancieto Silvestre, Jose Garcia Revelo, Buenviendo Ramos, and Vicente Damasalam. Many more composers added their beat during this period. Freddie Aguilar, Jose Marichan, and the group Tito, Vic, and Zoe. One of Freddie Aguilar, this actually a fact, composed a song called Anak, became instant success because of the spirit and emotions revealed in the song. It was so popular that there were even translations in Japanese and in other languages. One of the highlights of the New Society is the use of radio and television. Radio continued to be patronized during the period. Even the new songs were first heard over the airwaves. But in 1976, colored TV was implemented in the Philippines, and this quickly stole the popularity of radio. That is all for today, and I hope you learned something to your journey. Goodbye and good luck.
Hi everyone, my name is Dylan Baldumar. I am your tour guide. The Third Republic of the Philippines was inaugurated on July 4, 1946, marking the culmination of the peaceful campaign for Philippine. It also marked the recognition by the global community of nations of the nationhood of the Philippines, which began with the Commonwealth of the Philippines joined the Anti-Axis Alliance in 19. From 1946 to 1961, Independence Day was celebrated on July. In 1962, President Diosdado Macapagal issued Proclamation number 1962, which declared June 12 as independent. In 1964, Congress passed Republic Act number 4166, which formally designated June 12 of every year as the date on which we celebrate Philippines. President Manuel Rojas proposed a wide-sweeping legislative program to address the country's post-war challenges, including the establishment of the Rehabilitation Finance Corporation, the creation of the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Organization of the Poor, the GI Bill of Rights for Filipino veterans, and the revision of the taxation laws to increase government revenue. He also proposed the parity amendment to the 1935 Constitution, which would give American citizens and industries the right to utilize the country's natural resources in return for rehabilitation support from the United States. On March 11, 1947, 432,933, 78.89% of the electorate voted in favor of the amendment, providing the nation with $620 million in war damage compensation. That is all, and I hope you learned something in this period.
I'm Aaron, your tour guide. I just want to let you know the most recent period in the Philippine history. The flowering of Philippine literature is the various languages continues, especially with the appearances of the new publication after the martial law years, in the surgence of committed literature in 1960s and the 1970s. Filipino writers continue to write poetry, short stories, novellas, novels, and essays, whether these are socially committed, gender, ethnic, related to our person on intention or not. Of course, the Filipino writer has become more conscious of his art with the proliferation of writers' workshop here and abroad, and the bulk of literature available to him by the mass media, including the internet. Various literary awards such as the Don Carlos Palanca Memorial Award from Literature, the Philippine Free Press, Philippine Graphics, Home Life, and Panorama Literary Award encouraged him to complete his empire and hope the same creative effort will be rewarded into the long run. With the new requirements of education, teaching of Philippine literature in the tertiary school and a country, emphasizing the teaching of the vernacular literature of the region. The audience for Filipino writers is virtually assured, and perhaps a national literature finding its niche among the literature of the world will not be far behind.